Dear listener, in 1940s New York, a poisoned perfume vial sparks a deadly chase. I'm Archie Goodwin, trailing Layla Karadeniz's Blue Mosque whisper, a scent hiding Ottoman secrets from smugglers' gold to ancient relics. Was Layla a victim or a mastermind? Who's the dove, guarding a lost empire's truth? Join Nero Wolfe as we unravel a web of betrayal, coded in roses and lies. Can you guess the courtyard's final secret? Chapter 1. The Scent of Intrigue. It was October 1946, and New York was draped in a drizzle that turned the streets into a watercolor blur, all grays and golds under the streetlights. I was in the office, hammering out expense reports on the typewriter, the kind of chore that makes you wish for a stick-up just to break the monotony. The clock ticked towards 7, and Fritz Brenner, our chef and household saint, was in the kitchen, coaxing magic from a leg of lamb. Then the doorbell chimed, a sharp note cutting through the rain's murmur. I opened the door to a woman who could have stepped out of a travelogue for the Orient. She was tall, maybe 5'9", with olive skin that caught the lamplight like polished marble. Her eyes were dark, almost black, with a depth that made you think of secrets whispered in ancient courtyards. A fur coat, mink by my guess, hung over her shoulders, and her hair was swept under a silk scarf patterned with turquoise and gold. Colors I'd later learn echoed the tiles of Istanbul's Blue Mosque. She carried a small clutch purse, and her gloved fingers clutched it tight, like it held her last dollar. "Mr. Nero Wolfe?" she asked, her voice low, with an accent that danced between Turkish spice and British boarding school. "He's upstairs with his orchids," I said, stepping aside. "I'm Archie Goodwin, his confidential assistant. Care to tell me what brings you out in this weather, Miss?" "Layla Karadeniz," she said, pronouncing it Layla Karadeniz, each syllable deliberate, like she'd practiced it for American tongue. "Created, inspired by the Blue Mosque in Istanbul. I call it Blue Mosque Whisper. But someone tampered with it. It's poisoned." I leaned forward, eyebrows up. "Poisoned? As in sniff and drop dead poisoned?" She nodded, her lips tight. "I'm a perfumer by trade. I moved to New York 6 months ago to launch my atelier on Fifth Avenue. Last week, at a private unveiling for my new scent, I tested it on my wrist. Within moments, I could barely breathe. My skin burned, my vision blurred. A doctor later confirmed traces of atropine. She pronounced it atropine, a deadly alkaloid. The vial was tested afterward, and it was clean. Someone meant to kill me, Mr. Goodwin, and make it look like an accident." Now, Wolfe doesn't budge for just any sob story, but poison and exotic perfume? That's catnip for his brain. I buzzed him on the house phone, interrupting his orchid ritual. "Client downstairs," I said. "Lady with a poisoned perfume problem. Turkish angle. You interested?" A grunt, then. "After dinner, 8:30. Have Fritz prepare coffee." I turned to Layla. "He'll see you, but you'll have to wait. Dinner's sacred around here. Care to join us?" She declined, too jittery to eat, but agreed to stay. I poured her a coffee, black, no sugar, the way she took it, and studied her while she sipped. Her necklace, A silver chain with a crescent pendant caught my eye. She kept twisting it, a nervous tick. Her glove stayed on, which struck me as odd. Hiding something? Scars, maybe? Or evidence? I filed that away, along with the way she glanced at her watch every few minutes. Whoever she was afraid of, they weren't far behind. Dinner was Fritz's triumph: lamb roasted with rosemary, potatoes au gratin, and a salad that could make you forget meat exists. Wolfe descended at 8 sharp, his bulk filling the doorway like a storm cloud. He settled. Don't know how, but I know why. Someone wants me dead. Wolfe's fingers steepled, a sign his brain was grinding gears. Who was present? He asked. She listed names. Her estranged husband, Emir Karadeniz, a Turkish diplomat who'd followed her to New York, bitter over their separation. Vivian Hart, her business partner, a sharp-edged New Yorker with a knack for numbers but a temper to match. And a delivery boy, unknown to her, who'd dropped off a gift vial just before the event. He'd vanished, leaving no name, no trace. Suspects, Wolfe murmured almost to himself. Motive? Layla's eyes dropped. Emir. He's jealous. My success, my independence. He can't stand it. Vivian wants control of the business. She's been pushing me to sell my share. And the delivery boy, I don't know. A hired hand, maybe? I scribbled notes, my mind racing. Emir, the diplomat with a grudge. Vivian, the partner with dollar signs in her eyes. The mystery boy, a ghost in the plot. And Layla herself, was she as innocent as she seemed? That perfume vial sitting on the desk now glinted like a clue begging to be sniffed out. But I wasn't fool enough to try. Wolfe leaned back, his eyes half closed. Miss Karadeniz, you will provide a list of all attendees, their backgrounds, and any correspondence related to this event. Archie, tomorrow you will visit this atelier, examine the scene, speak to this Vivian Hart, and locate this delivery boy. I nodded, already planning my moves. Guest list, Emir's embassy contacts, Vivian's financials. But as Layla stood to leave, I caught a whiff of her perfume. Not the poisoned one, but something she wore. It was heady, floral, with a sharp undercurrent that made my neck prickle. Was it a clue, this scent? Or just another layer of deception? She paused at the door, her scarf slipping to reveal a faint red mark on her wrist, necklace twisting. But poison doesn't lie, and neither does Wolfe's nose for truth. The atelier was a slice of Istanbul plopped into Manhattan's heart. A brass sign read Karadeniz Fragrances, and the windows glowed with turquoise drapes, like the tiles Layla described from the Blue Mosque's courtyard. Inside, it was a shrine to scent, glass shelves lined with vials, each catching the light like a tiny prism. The air carried notes of jasmine and amber, heavy enough to make you dizzy. Or was that just my nerves? Vivian Hart stood behind a counter, her red lipstick sharp as a razor, her blonde hair pinned up like a general's battle plan. She was all business, but her eyes flicked to the door as I entered, like she expected trouble. Miss Hart, I said, tipping my hat. Archie Goodwin, working for Nero Wolfe. I'm here about Layla's incident. Her smile was thin, like she'd practiced it in a mirror and decided it was good enough. Layla's little drama, you mean? She's always been theatrical. Collapsing at her own party? Classic. Her voice had a New York bite, but her hands, rearranging perfume bottles, trembled just enough to notice. Nervous? Or hiding something? I leaned on the counter, casual but watching. Theatrical or not, atropine's no stage prop. Tell me about the party. Who was there? What did you see? Vivian sighed, lighting a cigarette. The smoke curled like a question mark. It was a typical Layla affair. Too much champagne, too many egos. Art dealers, a few diplomats, some rich dames looking to smell exotic. Layla was showing off her Blue Mosque whisper. Dabbed it on, started her spiel about Istanbul's courtyards, then hit the floor. Gasping, clutching her wrist. Dr. Kessler stepped in, cool as ice, and got her stable. The vial tested clean later, so maybe she faked it for attention. I jotted notes, my gut saying Vivian wasn't spilling everything. You don't sound convinced it was an axe sealed with wax. A faint scent lingered. Not floral, but sharp, chemical. Atropine? I made a mental note to get Saul Panzer, our best freelance operative, to sniff around for lab contacts. Back in the main room, I pressed Vivian. This delivery boy Layla mentioned, the one with the gift vial. Know him? Her face tightened. Some kid in a cap, maybe 20, dropped off the package and bolted. I figured he was a courier. Layla gets samples all the time from suppliers in Istanbul. She stubbed out her cigarette, too hard. Look, Goodwin, I've got a business to run. Layla's paranoid, but if you want my take, check Amir. He's got a temper, and diplomats have ways of covering tracks. I thanked her, stepping back into the drizzle. Clue 2. Vivian's quickness to point at Amir. Too quick. I hailed a cab to the Turkish embassy where Amir worked. The building was all marble and flags, a fortress of bureaucracy. A clerk confirmed Amir was in a meeting, but I sweet-talked my way to his secretary, a mousy guy named Haluk, pronounced Haluk. He was nervous, adjusting his glasses as I asked about Amir's whereabouts during the party. Mr. Karadeniz was here, working late, Haluk stammered. He doesn't socialize much since the separation, but his desk had a photo of Layla, smiling in a sunlit courtyard. Maybe Istanbul's Blue Mosque? Clue 3. Amir's alibi, solid but convenient, and that photo, a hint of obsession. Back at the brownstone, I reported to Wolfe, who was in the plant rooms fussing over his orchids. The air was humid, thick with the scent of earth and blooms. Well, he growled through the intercom. I laid it out. Vivian's skepticism, the torn invitation, the chemical whiff in the storeroom, Amir's alibi, and that photo. Layla's hiding something, I said. She didn't mention Amir crashing the party. And Vivian's got motive. She's drowning in debt, per a quick call to Lon Cohen, I said, eyeing her burned wrist, now visible without gloves. Who knew where you kept that formula? She hesitated, her crescent pendant glinting. Only Vivian and Amir. Her eyes darted to him, then away. Was she afraid or playing me? The scent of her perfume lingered, not poisoned but haunting, like a clue I couldn't quite grasp. Chapter 3. Threads of Deception. The morning after Layla's frantic call about her ransacked apartment, I was up before the sun, fueled by Fritz's coffee and Wolf's orders. Find the delivery boy, trace the formula, and don't come back with guesses. New York was waking slow, the streets slick with last night's rain, the air sharp with the tang of coal smoke and newsstand ink. My first stop was the flophouse where Vivian Hart said the delivery boy might have holed up. A dingy joint on the Lower East Side, all peeling paint and sour beer fumes. The clerk, a guy with a face like a crumpled paper bag, squinted at my description. Young, cap low, quick on his feet. "Yeah, sounds like Jimmy the Mouse," he grunted, scratching his stubble. "Kid's a runner for odd jobs, comes and goes. Try the pool hall on Houston, but don't expect him to sing." Clue 1, Jimmy the Mouse. I filed the name, tipped the clerk a buck, and headed to the pool hall. It was a dive, all dim lights and clacking billiard balls, the air thick with cigarette haze. Jimmy was there all right. A wiry kid, maybe 19, with a cap tilted over one eye and a smirk that said he'd seen trouble and liked it. I bought him a soda, leaned on my charm, and got him talking. "Delivered a package to that fancy perfume place," he admitted, chalking his cue. "Lady paid me cash. Dark hair, fancy accent. Said it was a gift for the boss. I didn't ask questions. $10 is $10. Describe her," I pressed. He shrugged. "Wore a scarf, like them foreign types. Didn't see much. Dropped the vial and split." His eyes darted, though, when I mentioned poison. Clue 2. Jimmy was scared, and not just of me. Someone had cases in the city. "You and Wolfe stirring up trouble again, Goodwin?" He growled. "Keep me posted, or I'll have your hide." I promised to share, knowing Wolfe would rather eat crow than tip Kramer early. Next, I headed to Layla's apartment to follow up on the break-in. The place was still a mess, books toppled, cushions slashed, but the cops had come and gone, calling it a simple burglary. Layla was there, pale as a ghost, her crescent pendant glinting as she paced. "They took my notebook," she said, her voice brittle. "The formula, my notes on the Blue Mosque's inspiration. Years of work, gone." I scanned the room. No forced entry, just a jimmied lock. Clue 3. Whoever broke in knew their way around. No smashed windows, no amateur mess. "Who had keys?" I asked. "Only Vivian," Layla said, then hesitated. "And Emir. He had a spare from when we lived together." Her eyes flicked to the floor, avoiding mine. That burn on her wrist, now unbandaged, looked fresh, like it hadn't healed since the party. Was she dosing herself to keep the act going? I pushed. "You didn't mention Emir at the party. Vivian says he crashed it. True?" She stiffened, her fingers twisting that pendant. "He showed up. I didn't invite him. He's been following me, Archie. He's dangerous." Her voice cracked, but her eyes were dry. Victim or actress? I couldn't tell, but that pendant was nagging me. Silver, crescent-shaped, like something out of an Ottoman tale. Was it a clue, or just jewelry? I left Layla to her nerves and swung by the Gazette to see Lon Cohen, my pipeline to the city's underbelly. Over a greasy diner lunch, he dished dirt. Vivian Hart was up to her eyeballs in debt, gambling losses, bad investments, but her stake in the atelier was her lifeline. Emir, meanwhile, had embassy whispers about him. Rumors of black market ties during the war. Maybe spices. Maybe worse. "He's clean on paper," Lon said, munching a fry. "But diplomats all..." Atropine is not merely poison. It's a message. Belladonna grows in Turkey, used in old remedies or rituals. Check the formula's ingredients. And this pendant you mentioned, describe it. "Silver, crescent-shaped, like a moon. Ottoman style, maybe. She fidgets with it constantly. Wolfe grunted, a sound of satisfaction. Find its origin. And bring me that invitation you pocketed. Handwriting may betray intent. That evening I got a call from Saul. He tracked a lead. A Brooklyn apothecary, known for under-the-counter deals, had sold belladonna extract to a woman matching Layla's description, scarf, accent, the works. She paid cash, no name, Saul said. But the timing fits the party. Clue 5. Layla herself buying poison? My stomach twisted. Was she playing us all, staging her own attack? As I hung up, Fritz buzzed the intercom. Archie, a visitor. Mr. Emir Karadeniz. I headed downstairs, finding Emir in the office, his diplomat's polish fraying. I heard about the break-in, he said, his accent thick. Layla's in danger. I want to help. His eyes were earnest, but that photo in his office, Layla in a courtyard, flashed in my mind. Obsession or something darker? The scent of deception was stronger than ever, dear listener. And I was neck-deep in it. What's your take? Is Layla framing herself? Or is Emir's concern a mask? And where should our next mystery unfold? A 1940s speakeasy? Or a Victorian opium den? Drop your thoughts below, and let's see if you can outguess Wolfe. Chapter 4. The Web Titans. Back at the brownstone, Wolfe was in his element, orchestrating from his oversized chair like a conductor of chaos. He demanded a gathering of the suspects, a classic move to shake the tree and see what falls out. It was late afternoon, the kind of gray October day that makes New York feel like it's holding its breath. Fritz had the office ready. Coffee for the guests, beer for Wolfe, and a plate of his almond cookies, which nobody but me ever touches. I stood by the door, notebook in hand, watching the players assemble. Atropine. Yet the vial was clean. Someone tampered with it. Or with you. Let us examine the threads. He started with Vivian. Miss Hart, your debts are substantial. A successful perfume launch could erase them, but a scandal could ruin you. Did you sabotage your partner? Vivian's laugh was sharp, like broken glass. Me? Poison Layla? She's the one who thrives on drama. I'm in hock, sure, but I need this business alive, not dead. Her fingers crushed her cigarette, betraying her cool. Clue 1. Vivian's desperation, loud as a siren despite her words. Wolfe turned to Emir. Mr. Karadeniz, you attended the unveiling uninvited. Your marriage is dissolved, yet you pursue your wife. Jealousy, perhaps, or something darker. Emir's jaw tightened. I went to protect her. Layla's reckless, new city, new enemies. I heard rumors of her formula attracting unsavory interest. His eyes flicked to Vivian, then back to Wolfe. Check her suppliers. Istanbul's black market doesn't play nice. Clue 2. Emir's deflection, hinting at a shadowy trade. Was he covering his tracks, or pointing to a real threat? Layla's turn. Wolfe's eyes bored into her. Madam, your story shifts. You omitted your husband's presence at the party. Your apartment was breached, yet only your formula vanished. And this pendant. Describe its origin. Layla's hand flew to the crescent, her voice faltering. It's a family heirloom. From my grandmother in Istanbul. A symbol of protection. Her eyes darted to Emir, then down. I didn't mention him because I was afraid. He's been following me. Clue 3. Layla's evasiveness and that pendant. Protection or a lie? I chimed in, laying out my findings. Jimmy the Mouse, the delivery boy, says a woman hired him. Scarf, accent, maybe Layla herself. Saw Panzer trace ring, but that pendant was practically screaming for a closer look. Wolfe nodded, a rare approval. Archie, the invitation. Show it. I pulled the torn scrap from my pocket, passing it to him. He studied it, his eyes narrowing. The ink, the slant. It matches samples from Miss Cardenez's notebook, per your description. But the tear. Deliberate. A message or a distraction. Vivian broke the silence, her voice acid. Layla, you wrote that note to make Amir look guilty. You've been playing victim since Istanbul. Amir shot back, accusing Vivian of smuggling spices laced with belladonna to undercut Layla's formula. Layla denied everything, her eyes wide, but I caught her glance at the door. Flight instinct or guilt? Clue 4. The room was a tangle of accusations, each suspect pointing at another. Red herrings, or a web where everyone's dirty. I stepped out to call Saul, who dug deeper. The apothecary's buyer had a Turkish accent, but her scarf had a crescent motif, like Layla's pendant. Coincidence, or a signature? Back inside, Wolfe was in full command. Let us consider motive. Miss Hart, financial ruin. Mr. Cardenez, obsession or revenge. Miss Cardenez, perhaps a gambit to eliminate rivals or to flee a past. He paused, letting the weight settle. Archie, tomorrow, visit this apothecary, confirm the buyer, and the pendant, have it examined. Its design may betray its owner. As the suspects left, Amir lingered, his voice low. Archie, Layla's not what she seems. Check her family. Istanbul's old money, old grudges. Vivian, passing by, overheard and smirked. Check his embassy deals, Goodwin. He's no saint. Layla said nothing, her pendant glinting as she slipped into the night. I sat with Wolfe, pouring him another beer. They're all lying, aren't they? I said. But Layla's pendant, it's the key, isn't it? Like a lock waiting for the right. The office was a stage set for Wolfe's grand finale. It was evening, the lamps casting a warm glow on the bookshelves, the globe, and Wolfe's massive desk. Fritz had outdone himself. Coffee brewed strong, a pitcher of beer for Wolfe, and a tray of his lemon tarts, untouched by anyone but me. Inspector Kramer was there, chewing an unlit cigar, his presence a grudging nod to Wolfe's knack for cracking cases. The suspects filed in. Layla, her dark eyes guarded, that crescent pendant glinting. Vivian, her lipstick a defiant slash, cigarette smoldering. Ymir, his diplomat's calm cracking, hands clenched. I stood by the door, notebook ready, feeling the air crackle like a storm about to break. Wolfe leaned back, his bulk filling the custom chair, his voice a low rumble. Ladies and gentlemen, this is no mere theft or mishap. It is attempted murder, cloaked in perfume and deception. The threads are clear. Let us knot them. He started with the facts, his fingers steepled. Miss Cardenez, you collapsed at your unveiling, poisoned by atropine, pronounced atropine, yet the vial was clean. A delivery boy, Jimmy the Mouse, brought a gift vial, hired by a woman with a Turkish accent. A notebook with your formula was stolen, and a pendant, Ottoman, tied to wartime smuggling, dangles from your neck. These are not accidents. Layla's hand flew to her pendant, her voice sharp. I'm the victim, Mr. Wolfe. Someone wants me dead. But her eyes flicked to Amir, then Vivian, like a cornered cat. Wolfe ignored her, turning to Vivian. Miss Hart, your debts are crushing. The formula for Blue Mosque Whisper could save you, or selling it could. You accused Miss Carradines of staging the attack, yet your hands shake when her name is mentioned. Vivian stubbed out her cigarette, her lips tight, saying nothing. Clue 1. Her silence, louder than words. To Amir. Mr. Carradines' voice acid. She's been playing us all. That formula's worth millions. She staged the poisoning to frame Amir, scare me off, and boost sales. Amir countered, his accent thick. No, Vivian's the one with debts. She's been smuggling spices, hiding belladonna in shipments. The room erupted, accusations flying like shrapnel. Wolfe raised a hand, silencing them. Enough. The courtyard of the Blue Mosque. Miss Carradines inspired your perfume. Its piece is a facade, hiding secrets, like your own. You poisoned yourself, madam, with atropine applied via that pendant's compartment, an Ottoman poison ring design. Your goal? To frame Mr. Carradines, ruin Miss Hart, and resurrect your failing Istanbul ventures with a scandal-driven launch. The room froze. Kramer's cigar dropped. Layla's eyes widened, her voice a whisper. You can't prove that. Wolfe's lips twitched, a rare smile. Archie, the pendant. I'd pocketed it earlier with Wolfe's nod during a handshake as Layla arrived. I passed it to him, and he pried open the crescent's hidden catch. A tiny spring, revealing a speck of crystalline residue. Atropine, Wolfe said. Tested by Saul Panzer this morning. Your wrist burn, madam, is self-inflicted, timed to your unveiling. Clue 3, the pendant, a smuggler's tool turned murder weapon. Layla's shoulders slumped, her act crumbling. I had no choice, she stammered. My family's debts in Istanbul, Amir's threats. I needed a way out. Wolfe pressed on. The stolen formula? Hidden by you to divert suspicion. Jimmy the Mouse. Hired to deliver a decoy vial, ensuring your collapse drew eyes. You played the victim, but your own hand wielded the poison. Kramer stood, cuffs ready. That's enough for me, Wolfe. Miss Carradines, you're under arrest. Layla didn't resist, her pendant glinting one last time as Kramer let her out. Vivian exhaled, lighting another cigarette, her relief palpable. The city's winking at you. I was in the office typing up Wolfe's report for Kramer, who'd been grumbling about paperwork but sent a grudging thank you note. A miracle in itself. Fritz was in the kitchen, humming over a pot of beef bourguignon, and Wolfe was upstairs, fussing with his orchids. Life felt almost normal, but normal in our line of work is just the calm before the next storm. The doorbell rang, sharp and insistent. Fritz ushered in a visitor I hadn't expected. Haluk, pronounced Haluk, Amir's mousy embassy secretary from Chapter 3, his glasses slipping down his nose, a manila envelope clutched like a lifeline. Mr. Goodwin, he said, his voice a nervous quiver. I need Mr. Wolfe. It's about Layla. And the pendant. I raised an eyebrow. Layla's in jail, pal. Case closed. What's got you sweating? Haluk glanced at the door like he expected a shadow to follow him. It's not closed. There's more. Something she didn't tell you. He opened the envelope, spilling out a photograph and a letter, both stamped with Turkish consular seals. The photo showed Layla in Istanbul's Blue Mosque courtyard, standing by a fountain. But she wasn't alone. A man, older, with a hawkish face and a crescent-shaped ring, stood beside her. The letter, in Turkish with an English translation, was from an Istanbul jeweler, claiming the pendant was one of a pair, linked to a wartime smuggling ring. Clue 1. The pendant had a twin and Layla hadn't mentioned it. I buzzed Wolfe, who grumbled but agreed to descend, a rare concession outside dinner hours. He settled into his chair, eyeing Haluk like a specimen under a microscope. "Speak," he growled, sipping beer. "Precisely." Haluk stammered through his story. After Layla's arrest, Amir had returned to Istanbul, claiming diplomatic duties. But Haluk stayed, tasked with clearing his desk. He'd found the envelope hidden in a locked drawer, along with a note in Amir's hand. "Find the second crescent. It's the key." Haluk, loyal but spooked, had dug deeper. "Won't touch it." Wolfe grunted, his fingers drumming. "Archie, contact Saul. Locate this Orhan Demir and the letter. Have it verified." I nodded, already dialing Saul, who promised to hit his underworld contacts. Meanwhile, I headed to the Turkish consulate, flashing my charm at a clerk who confirmed Orhan's name on old visa records. He'd entered New York in '45 under a merchant alias. Clue 3. Orhan was here, lurking like a shadow in Layla's story. Back at the brownstone, Saul called with a lead. Orhan ran a spice shop in Brooklyn, a front for black market deals. I grabbed my fedora and hit the streets, the city's pulse quickening as dusk fell. The shop was a hole in the wall, shelves packed with jars of saffron and sumac, the air heavy with exotic scents. Orhan was there, his hawkish face unmistakable, his ring glinting like Layla's pendant. "Mr. Goodwin," he said, his voice smooth as oil. "I expected you." He knew about the case. Too much, too fast. "Layla was a fool," he said, pouring tea that smelled faintly of anise. "She thought she could outrun her debts by framing Amir. The pendant? A signal to me to back off. But I don't scare easy." Clue 4. Orhan's confidence and that ring, the twin crescent, etched with tiny symbols I couldn't read. I pressed him. "Did you supply the atropine? Poison her to settle a score?" Orhan laughed, cold. "I deal in spices, not poison. Layla bought her own belladonna, her plan, her ruin. But the formula? That's mine now. She hid it, but I'll find it." His eyes gleamed, and I saw the predator beneath the merchant. I left, my gut telling me Orhan was a loose cannon, and Amir's disappearance was no coincidence. Back home, Wolfe was in the office, studying the letter under a magnifying glass. "The symbols on the pendant," he said, "match those in Ottoman ciphertexts used by smugglers to mark safe routes. Layla's formula was a code, Archie. Not just perfume, but a map to hidden goods." Arrived. Ring glinting. But Amir emerged too, bruised but alive, having tailed Orhan from Istanbul. In a tense standoff, Orhan confessed. He'd pressured Layla, supplied her belladonna, and stolen the notebook. But Amir's interference forced his hand. Kramer cuffed Orhan, and Amir, shaken, vowed to return home. As the dust settled, Wolfe sipped beer, satisfied. "The courtyard's secrets are aired, Archie. File it." I did. The scent of justice, sharp as saffron. Dear listener, the Blue Mosque's shadows are clear, but mysteries linger. What's your take on Orhan's game? Where should Wolfe and I hunt next? A 1940s Cairo souk or a Victorian Paris underworld? Drop your thoughts below and stay curious. Chapter 7. The Final Whisper. It was late November 1946 and New York was bundled in a chill that nipped at your bones. The brownstone was cozy, Fritz's fire crackling in the office, the air rich with the scent of his chestnut soup simmering in the kitchen. I was at my desk, filing away the Blue Mosque whisper case when the phone rang. A sharp jolt like a warning shot. It was Saul Panzer, our ace operative, his voice low and urgent. Archie, we missed something. Layla's talking in lockup, and it's not just about Orhan. There's a third player, someone stateside. I leaned forward, my pulse ticking up. What kind of player? Someone who funded her scheme, Saul said. She's hinting at a big name, tied to her formula. I got a lead. A lawyer in Manhattan, name's Evelyn Caldwell. She's got a safe deposit box with something Layla wants back. Clue 1. A new suspect, pulling strings from the shadows. I buzzed Wolfe, who was in the plant rooms, fussing over a stubborn cattleya. He grumbled but agreed to hear me out over dinner. Roast duck, naturally. As Fritz served, I laid out Saul's bombshell. Wolfe's eyes narrowed, his fork pausing mid-bite. A lawyer, he muttered, tightened. A crack in the facade. Speculation, Mr. Goodwin. I deal in contracts, not conspiracies. But her fingers tapped the desk, a nervous rhythm. I thanked her, noting the drawer's lock. A Yale, tough but not impossible. Saul could crack it, given time. Back at the brownstone, I called Saul, who'd been tailing leads in Brooklyn. He'd found a witness, a dock worker who'd seen Evelyn at Orhan's spice shop months back, before Layla's unveiling. She wasn't buying saffron, Saul said. Looked like a payoff. And get this, she's got ties to a shipping firm, one that moved Turkish goods during the war. Clue 3. Evelyn, linked to Orhan's smuggling, and maybe Layla's formula. Wolfe was in the office, sipping beer when I reported. This lawyer, he said, is no mere bystander. The formula, Archie, its value lies not in perfume, but in what it conceals. A cipher, perhaps, for smuggled goods or funds. Examine Miss Caldwell's connections, and the safe deposit box. Its contents may be the final key. I hit the streets again, this time with Saul. We staked out Evelyn's office after hours, the city's neon glow painting the pavement. Saul, nimble as ever, slipped the lock on her building while I kept watch. Inside we found the drawer, and a ledger, not unlike Layla's notebook, listing shipments from Istanbul. Spices, yes, but also coded entries marked Crescent. Clue 4. The ledger, a mirror to Layla's formula, hiding black market deals. As we left, a shadow moved, Jimmy the Mouse, that delivery boy, tailing us. I cornered him in an alley, his cap low, his eyes wide. Talk, I said. Who's paying you now? Evelyn, he muttered, shaking. She wanted tabs on you. Said you'd find the notebook. I didn't know it was trouble. He bolted, but not before dropping a key. A safe deposit key, stamped with the bank's name. Clue 5. Evelyn's box, and Jimmy, her reluctant pawn. Back at the brownstone, Wolfe pieced it together. Miss Caldwell funded Layla's scheme, expecting the formula cipher to unlock wartime profits hidden in crumpled. Her confession spilling. She'd bankrolled Layla to retrieve the cipher, planning to double-cross Orhan and claim the gold. Layla's self-poisoning was her own twist, a desperate bid to escape both. Kramer hauled her off, grumbling about Wolfe's theatrics, but satisfied. As the door closed, Wolfe sighed, reaching for another beer. Satisfactory, Archie. File it. I did, the scent of justice sharp as the anise in Orhan's tea. The courtyard's secrets were laid bare, its doves free at last. Chapter 8. The Last Veil. It was early December 1946, and New York was wrapped in a frost that bit like a bad conscience. The brownstone was warm, Fritz's fire crackling, the air rich with the aroma of his spiced cider simmering in the kitchen. I was at my desk, sorting the Blue Mosque Whisper case files, ready to shelve them for good, when the doorbell chimed, a sharp note like a warning bell. Fritz ushered in a stranger, a wiry man in a worn overcoat, his face weathered like old leather. He introduced himself as Selim Yilmaz, pronounced Selim Yilmaz, a Turkish émigré and former associate of Layla's family in Istanbul. His eyes darted, clutching a small parcel wrapped in brown paper. "Mr. Wolfe," he said, his accent thick. "This isn't over. Layla left something behind." I raised an eyebrow. "She's in jail, pal. So's her pal Orhan, and their bankroller Evelyn. What's left to stir up?" Selim unwrapped the parcel, revealing a perfume vial, identical to Layla's, but etched with a tiny crescent moon, like her pendant. "This came to me yesterday, mailed from New York. There's a note inside." He handed me a slip of paper, scrawled in Turkish. I passed it to Wolfe, who was already in his chair, beer in hand, eyeing Selim like a hawk sizing up a sparrow. Clue 1. The vial, a twin, forward, his bulk shifting like a gathering storm. "Archie, investigate this rose. The Blue Mosque's courtyard, its fountains, doves, and roses. The formula may hide more than a smuggling ledger. And Mr. Yilmaz, his past. Verify it." I hit the streets, the city's chill slicing through my coat. First stop, the post office, where a clerk remembered a woman dropping the parcel. Dark hair, scarf, Turkish accent. Sounded like Layla, but couldn't be. A copycat? I called Lon Cohen at the Gazette, who dug into Selim's background. A spice trader, yes, but linked to a 1943 Istanbul heist. Gold bars vanished, rumored to be hidden in coded shipments. Clue 4. Selim, tied to Layla's family and their wartime loot. Next, I visited a botanist friend, Dr. Kessler, the same doc who'd saved Layla at her unveiling. Over coffee, he explained rose attar, a keynote in Blue Mosque Whisper. "It's rare," he said, "distilled from Damascus roses. But in Turkey, it's also a smuggler's trick. Soak paper in attar, hide messages in the scent." My gut twisted. Was Layla's formula a literal message encoded in rose oil? Back at the brownstone, Saul had news. The vial's etching matched Layla's pendant, but its contents weren't perfume. Just rosewater, laced with a chemical trace. Not atropine, Saul said, but a marker, like smugglers use to tag goods. Clue 5. The vial, a decoy or a beacon, pointing to hidden treasure. I reported to Wolfe, who was in the office staring at his globe. "The rose," he murmured, "is the key. Miss Karadeniz's formula wasn't just a cipher for funds. It's a map, hidden in the scent's composition. The rose attar marks the location. And this Selim, he's no bystander." I tailed Selim to a warehouse in Hell's Kitchen, the kind of place where shadows have eyes. He met a woman there. Not Layla, but close. Same olive skin, same crescent pendant. She was Isla Karadeniz, pronounced Isla Karadeniz, Layla's cousin, to flush out the gold. You used her cousin's access to smugglers' routes, hiding bars in rose-soaked crates. But Salim betrayed you, seeking the prize himself. He held up the formula, its ratios a map to a Brooklyn locker. Kramer's men, waiting outside, moved in as Ayla lunged for the paper. She confessed, voice breaking. Layla's plan was hers, too, to reclaim their family's wartime loot. Salim, a double-crosser, had tipped her off, but planned to steal the gold. Kramer cuffed her, muttering about Wolfe's theatrics. Salim vanished, but Saul was on his trail. Chapter 9. The Courtyard's Ghost. It was mid-December 1946 and New York was locked in a freeze, the streets glittering with ice like a jeweler's display case gone rogue. The brownstone was a warm haven, Fritz's fire snapping in the office, the air laced with the tang of his mulled wine brewing in the kitchen. I was at my desk, tying up loose ends on the Blue Mosque whisper case, when the doorbell rang. A low, insistent buzz, like a wasp trapped in a jar. Fritz ushered in a woman, petite and sharp-eyed, wrapped in a wool coat too big for her frame. She introduced herself as Nesrin Özkan, pronounced Nesrin Özkan, a Turkish historian from Columbia University, her voice carrying the clipped precision of someone used to being heard. She held a leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed, embossed with a faint crescent moon. "Mr. Goodwin," she said, her eyes steady. "This journal belonged to Layla Karadeniz's grandmother, Aisha. It surfaced in a Manhattan auction last week, and it changes everything about your case. Clue 1. A journal tied to Layla's family, with secrets old enough to stir ghosts." I raised an eyebrow. "Layla's locked up along with her pals Orhan, Evelyn, and Isla. What's this journal got that's worth braving a New York winter?" Nesrin's lips twitched, not quite a smile. Proof the formula wasn't just a smuggling cipher. It's a key to something older. A relic from the Ottoman court hidden in New York. She opened the frame job was to find this locket. Nesrin nodded. She didn't know its full value. Orhan, Evelyn, and Isla were after the gold, but the locket's worth more, to collectors, to governments. Someone's hunting it now. Her eyes flicked to the window like she felt a shadow watching. Wolfe's fingers steepled. "This keeper, who?" "The journal calls them the Dove," Nesrin said. "No name, just a symbol. A dove feather, etched in the locket's clasp." Clue 3. The Dove, a mysterious figure tied to the Courtyard's legacy. I called Saul Panzer, who was already on the trail of auction records. He confirmed the journal's sale, bought by an anonymous bidder, but traced to a rare book dealer in Greenwich Village. I hit the streets, the city's frost biting through my coat. The dealer's shop was a cluttered cave, shelves groaning with manuscripts. The owner, a twitchy man named Felix, admitted selling the journal to Nesrin, but clammed up about the buyer. A glint in his desk drawer caught my eye. A dove feather, tucked in a ledger. Clue 4. Felix, linked to the dove, or the dove himself? I pressed him, leaning close. "Who's the dove, Felix? And what's with the feather?" His face paled. "I just moved books, Goodwin. Got that feather in a shipment from Istanbul years ago. Don't know no dove." His hands shook, betraying him. I pocketed the feather, figuring Wolfe would want to look. Back at the brownstone, Saul had dug deeper. The dove was a code name, used by an Ottoman network that hid relics during World War II with ties to Layla's family. The locket's map, he said, pointed to a vault in a Turkish cultural society on the Upper East Side. I headed there, the building a quiet brownstone, its walls hung with tapestries of Istanbul's mosques. A curator, an older woman named Zeynep, pronounced Zeynep, greeted me, her eyes sharp behind spectacles. She denied knowing the locket but faltered when I mentioned the dove. "Old stories," she said too quickly. "Nothing more." Layla's scheme was a distraction, drawing hunters like Orhan and Evelyn. But you hid the locket, using the society as cover. The formula's ratios. Coordinates to a vault, yes. Zeynep's eyes flashed, then softened. Aish entrusted me. The locket holds a map to manuscripts, not gold. Texts that could rewrite Ottoman history. I mailed the journal to Nesrin to warn her off, but you're relentless. She pulled the locket from her coat, rose-shaped, its clasp etched with a feather. Kramer, waiting in the hall, stepped in. "That's enough, Wolfe. We'll take it from here." Zeynep didn't resist, handing over the locket, her mission exposed but safe. The vault, Kramer later confirmed, held manuscripts, not treasure. A cultural legacy, protected at last. As the door closed, Wolfe sighed, reaching for beer. "Satisfactory, Archie. File it." I did, the scent of roses and truth lingering like a final breath. Chapter 10. The Courtyard's Final Echo. It was late December 1946, and New York was draped in a snow that softened the city's edges, turning it into a postcard of quiet menace. The brownstone was a warm cocoon, Fritz's fire crackling in the office, the air laced with the spice of his gingerbread cooling in the kitchen. I was at my desk, archiving the Blue Mosque whisper case, ready to close the book on Layla and her tangled web when the phone rang. A low, insistent trill, like a signal from the past. It was Lon Cohen from the Gazette, his voice sharp with news. "Archie, you're gonna want to hear this. A package showed up at my office addressed to you. It's got that Turkish vibe, and a note saying it's from the Dove." I bolted upright. "The Dove? Zeynep's locked up, Lon. You sure it's not a prank?" "No prank," he said. "It's a vial, like Layla's, with a rose etched on it. Notes in Turkish. I'm sending it over." Clue 1. A new vial, echoing the poisoned one, tied to streets. The snow crunching under my boots, heading for a Turkish antiques dealer in Soho, known for handling wartime goods. The shop was a cavern of rugs and brass lamps, the air heavy with incense. The owner, Murat Bey, pronounced Murat Bey, was a wiry man with eyes like polished jet. He recognized the vial's description, his fingers pausing on a ledger. "Such pieces are rare," he said. "From the Blue Mosque's keepers, a secret order, guarding more than gold." Clue 3. The Dove as a title, tied to an ancient order. I pressed him. "Who's selling these now? And what's the rose guarding?" Murat's smile was thin. "A collector, anonymous. But the rose, it's a symbol." The order hid messages in rose attar, soaked into vellum. "Check the vial's base." I did, later, finding a tiny compartment with a scrap of vellum, scented with rose, inscribed with numbers. Clue 4. A coded message, hidden in the vial, pointing to a new prize. Back at the brownstone, Wolfe studied the vellum, his magnifying glass catching the fire's glow. Coordinates, he murmured. Or a cipher. The Blue Mosque's courtyard. Its roses were not just beauty but markers. This order guarded secrets beyond manuscripts. He tapped the vial. Test its contents, Archie, and find this collector. I sent the vial to a chemist friend who confirmed no poison, just rosewater, laced with a chemical marker used in World War II espionage to track shipments. Saul, meanwhile, traced the collector to a private club on the Upper West Side, a haunt for art dealers and diplomats. I bluffed my way in, flashing a fake invite, and spotted a familiar face. Haluk, pronounced Haluk, Emir's nervous secretary from Chapter 3, now sporting a dove-shaped lapel pin. Clue 5. Haluk, the new dove, carrying Zeynep's mantle. I cornered him at the bar, his glasses slipping as he... Haluk's next. Wolfe leaned forward, his voice a blade. Mr. Klein, you hunted the dove, chasing a locket you'll never possess. The vial's message led us to you. Your deals with Orhan's old network betray you. He held up the vellum, its numbers a decoy to lure Klein. Kramer's men, waiting outside, moved in as Klein lunged, his confession spilling. He'd tracked the order's relics, using Orhan's contacts to hunt the locket. Haluk, trembling, handed over the real locket, a rose-shaped piece, its list safe. Kramer cuffed Klein, grumbling about Wolfe's flair. Haluk left, vowing to protect the order's secrets. Wolfe sighed, reaching for beer. Satisfactory, Archie. File it. I did. The scent of roses and justice, sharp as a winter breeze.